Alright guys, quick video here today since unfortunately we do have more console price hikes to talk about. Which it was a few months ago now, I believe, that I made a video talking about Microsoft jacking up the price of their Xbox Series consoles. Well now, unfortunately, both Sony and Nintendo have decided to follow suit and have announced price increases for their consoles as well for the US. Which, while this is the first increase for the US for both these consoles, this isn't really anything new globally. This has been a trend since about, I think, 2022. There's been random, increases in prices in various regions for all these consoles. This is just the first time it's hitting domestically. So, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the PlayStation 1 first, since it's more relevant, since news of it just broke the other day. But yeah, Sony has come out and announced that the PlayStation 5 is going to receive a $50 price increase for all of its models in the US. So that means the base model with the disc drive is now going to be $550, and the PS5 Pro is now going to be a whopping $750. So while it's not as high of an increase as Xbox was, considering that the base model Series X got a $100 increase, it is still bullshit, which I don't think that PS5 Pro was selling real huge numbers anyway. I don't think a price increase is going to help that very much. But yeah, a less of an increase than their competitor, but still a bullshit one nonetheless. But the real mind-boggling decision here is the one from Nintendo, which this isn't really news anymore. I think this broke like at the beginning of this month, but I haven't talked about it yet, so I'll talk about it here anyway. But yeah, Nintendo has announced a price increase for all of the models of the Switch 1 and not of the Switch 2, which just seems really bizarre to me. Depending on the model, it goes up between $30 and $50. I'll put some prices up on screen if you want the specifics. But this one kind of shocked me just because it seems odd that they would increase the price of their old console that they're in the process of phasing out anyway, since the new console has already come out. It makes me wonder how long Nintendo actually plans on continuing making the Switch 1 and supporting that console. It seems like they would be getting ready to phase it out, especially with the Switch 2 being backwards compatible anyway. Hell, this price increase might be just trying to push people more towards the Switch 2, since for the OLED model, which is the model I have, it's gone up $50 all the way up to $400, which I don't really see any purpose in spending $400 on an OLED Switch 1 when you could just put 50 more with it and get a Switch 2, and that one's going to have much longer legs at this point, since obviously it'll be able to play the Switch 2 exclusive games that'll be coming out, in years to come, while the OLED Switch will not be able to. Yes, I know the Switch 2 has just an LCD screen, but still, I think it's ridiculous to drop that much cash on a console that's in its waning years anyway. But overall, I will say the same thing I said when Xbox checked up their prices. This entire thing is bullshit. I don't think any of this should be happening. Which, again, I'm not going to get into a whole conversation about why any of this is happening, because, frankly, it's impossible to discuss it intelligently at this point, and I just don't have the fucking strength for it. So, I'm just going to stick with the same line that I had before, where, if you are in the market for these, if you can help it, don't spend these prices on these. We have to send the message as a group that, we're not going to tolerate these prices just going up and up and up all the time. If you quit buying the shit, they have to lower the price at some point. Which we actually saw a little bit of that from Microsoft already, because they have kinda sorta started to walk back the $80 game thing that they pushed at the same time as the hardware increases. So I don't think they fully dropped that. They had one game that was listed for 80, and then they wound up dropping it to 70. It was Outer Worlds 2, I think. But I have a feeling that that's just going to be that one game, and they're still going to eventually push to 80. They're just going to delay it a little bit. But yeah, obviously that got a very negative reaction at the time, and at least temporarily it has been rolled back for that one game at least. So it is possible to make these companies change course People just had to fucking control themselves and not spend these ridiculous prices on things. Now, as for me personally, neither one of these price increases will actually affect me, since obviously I've had my Switch 1 for several years now. And I don't know if I've mentioned this on a video before or not, but last year on the Black Friday sale, I did manage to get me a PS5 finally as well. So I already have these consoles, and, I'm not in the market for any extras at the moment. So I don't have to deal with the price increases for these two, at least. I would still like to eventually get a Series X at some point, but again, I'm definitely not paying $600 fucking dollars for the damn thing. So if you are in the market for a PS5 or a Switch 1 for some reason at this point, I recommend trying anything you can not to spend full price on these. Now, if you're waiting for a sale, you'll probably have more success with the PS5 than with the Switch, because we know how Nintendo is with their sales. But yeah, whatever you can do to try to get those knocked down, I would try to do so and avoid spending these ridiculous prices for several-year-old hardware at this point. But anyway, I guess that's all I got to say, so lots of luck to you and yours.